Welcome to Sweet Valley Diaries, the podcast where they would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for those meddling twins.
That's us.
Oh,
Tanner.
me and you? That's us?
Yeah, she's talking about us.
I thought she meant Liz and Jessica.
No, I think it's us. That's often what people call us behind our backs.
The twins, yeah.
Those meddling twins.
I was definitely talking about the Wakefield twins.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
My bad. Okay.
Super Thriller the Third, No Place to Hide.
So does that make me Miss America?
So, gladiators, are you reeling? Are you reeling with shock and awe at what's happening in your feed right now? You thought you were going to be lost at sea with Jessica and Mr. Russo's science class, but no, here we are. It's a
The
thriller
twins are
edition.
back.
And the twins are back. The terrible twins, as Jack and Tanner are known on their show, right? That's what they call you?
They call us the meddling twins.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
Yeah,
meddling
the
twins,
meddling
of course,
twins.
of course.
So wait, Mr. Russo's still kicking it, and he takes the science class on a cruise, and they get lost?
Yeah. They're getting ready to go on a science trip to some kind of an island.
Okay.
Francine's just like casting around looking for ideas for books, and she's just like,
Huh.
Dawn and Claudia got lost on an island. I wonder if I could do that.
Well, we got to
Classic.
check the files. We got to check the dates on those. But at this point, who knows? Because we're getting into almost the 90s at this point, right? This book was written in 1988, December 88. But
What's the timeline on these books? When did they start? Like early
83.
80s, right?
83,
83.
1983.
Okay.
So in case any listeners don't know, my guests today are Jack Shepard and Tanner Greenring of the Babysitters Club podcast. And they are experts in the field of juvenile fiction series podcasting, really just titans in that arena. And
Yeah,
so
that's why I didn't let you finish your intro. I just sort of assumed everyone would have known that.
everybody would know. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a strong possibility that anyone listening to this does know that already. And so they know that when we're comparing things that happen to Dawn or Christy on an island with or without
that's
a
the
science
Babysitters,
class.
guys. Gladiators, that's the Babysitters.
That's the Babysitters.
Come on.
Dawn and Christy don't live in Sweet Valley, California.
That
They
we know
might
of.
share a narrative universe, though.
I
think
bet
we've
Sweet
ever gotten to
Valley's
the
not
bottom
that
of
far from Palo City.
Yeah.
Oh man, how trippy would it be if in one of these books they start referencing like the rival high school? Because there are fictional towns that come up in these books, and we've got one in No Place to Hide, the third thriller book, a fictional town that really knocked my socks off. And it was not Palo City, but it was almost as great. The town of
Ronoma.
Ronoma.
Village or something?
I love that
Or-
she was just like, Sonoma. Yeah, Ronoma. Yeah, sure. Why not?
I laughed out loud. I did. I almost took a picture, but then I was just like, it's not going to translate how deeply hilarious it was.
Here's a question,
yeah.
Marissa. So in the BSC books, like obviously Stony Brook, Connecticut is a fake city, and they make up other cities like Seaside, New Jersey, and stuff like that. But they also constantly reference real cities like New York City or Stamford, Connecticut. Is there a similar sort of like, you know, does Sweet Valley just like exist just outside of the bounds of reality, and like they talk
Absolutely.
about LA a lot and stuff?
And, you know, absolutely. And I thought you might ask this because it struck me that it would be a perfect time to mention that I recently got a message from a listener who was reading some future book where they describe...
It takes place in the future, like Jason X, or
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
what's happening is that it's just ahead of where we currently are in the Sweet Valley Diaries podcast.
Got it.
So she's reading ahead, you know, she's an advanced gladiator. And she wrote to say that book describes Sweet Valley as being somewhere between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, which would put it like...
So there's like a wormhole if you like take the wrong turn.
Well, I think
could
there
just
must
get a
be because
wormhole-
it's not
wormhole
not
in
on the
Sweet
map.
Valley.
I live in California and I've never seen it on the map. And also it is a little bit of a mind bender because of the whole valley on the beach thing. We have been saying for a long time now that the Sweet Valley must be in Orange County, which is south of Los Angeles, because they took a big bike trip once up to Northern California and they went through Los Angeles.
There's no way that Jessica was like, yeah, I'm going to ride my bike like 20 miles a day for a bike trip.
I know. I'm trying to think back on it, and I feel like she was psyched for it, but maybe like overdressed.
She was cool in this book. She was she showed a different side of her than I'm used to in this book. She was like, yeah, I'm going to do the legwork and do the investigative journalism and like
journalist
I'm
and
excited
art
about my assignment.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff.
Well, that actually brings up an important aspect to all of these thriller books so far. One of the reasons that I was excited to have you guys come back for this book in particular is because it features Nicholas Morrow, who was a main character in a previous very exciting book that you guys were my guests for.
Nicholas has been through some shit.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What a life he's led.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you had to find out this way.
It's tough.
Yeah.
You know, it happens to the best of us. It's a very common story. You get into cocaine because your boyfriend dumped you, and that's the first thing you do is you fall in with a bad crowd, and then you get into cocaine, and then it turns out you have like a rare. And I appreciated Francine not being like all reefer madness on us and being like, this is really rare. Like mostly it's fine. But she had a rare cardiac condition.
It was the 80s. Like she had to make it clear. Like cocaine's not that bad.
Yeah.
But it could be. But
that's sad, and it really seems to have messed up our friend Nicholas. He's looking the worse for wear this week.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, he starts dating a ghost.
Yeah, and he does date a ghost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a great tease for the plot to come. But what I also wanted to say was that a cool aspect of these thriller books that'll also be new to you guys and maybe a little more fun than the whole Regina Morrow has died of a cocaine overdose / heart problem thing is that they're set at the Sweet Valley News office, and we've got the Wakefield twins doing really great intern work.
Killing it.
Unpaid internships, I'm afraid to say. But
I hope they got a paycheck after this one because they like
put their
got
life
the
on the
scoop
line.
of the century.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When did they start at the newspaper?
Oh, get ready for this. This is exciting. It happens in the summer.
Okay, sure.
So
Yeah.
it happens in a time that never comes in the main timeline.
Right.
Oh, so they're
that
trapped
is
in
such a
amber.
good way to do it, and that's not something Anne does. Anne
No.
includes like all seasons in her books, even though time is frozen in the Babysitters Club books as well. But I think like
she needs all the seasons. She's greedy.
yeah. Reserving seasons for side books is such a good idea.
So smart. Yeah.
Kudos to you, Francine.
I mean, the summer thing is especially clever because there are just things that can happen in these summer books that in theory would inform the rest of their lives at high school at Sweet Valley High, but they never do because in Sweet Valley High, they've never had this internship at the Sweet Valley News.
Wow.
In their junior year at Sweet Valley High, that is to say. They're at the newspaper and they're going to get like their biggest assignment yet. They're going to be assigned to really be the assistant of some feature writer for the paper, and Elizabeth's more excited about it than Jessica.
But Jessica's pretty excited about it. She's like pretty game.
Surprisingly, like I don't know Jessica that well, but I know her to be like not into anything except boys, and she is into a boy. Well,
that's true. Well, there is a little bit of talk at the beginning about how Jessica's like, how did I get roped into this newspaper job this summer? And Elizabeth, you and I are nothing alike. But she manages to find something to get psyched about. Like she's excited about the possibility of covering like a new makeup line at the mall.
Yeah. And she gets assigned this like a art piece, and she's like, "Cool, that sounds awesome."
Very cool. Yeah.
I'll go to the
very
gallery and like
sophisticated.
look at this new exhibition. Like I'm really interested in it.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth has got a juicy piece of work that she is really excited about that Jessica is not too keen on. And so each girl's been assigned a thing that they're much more excited about. So let's talk about Elizabeth's topic. It's the big Sweet Valley mayoral election.
It's the mayoral election. It's the only thing anyone's really thinking about in Sweet Valley.
Who do you like for mayor, guys?
I'll tell you who I like for mayor, the juicy piece of work you were talking about.
Yeah, Kincaid. Kincaid is the guy I like. Well, no, the juicy piece of work is Seth, right?
Well, Seth is like her boss or like her editor or like
that's their boss.
Yeah.
He's also sort of writing the piece about the election though too, right? He does a lot of work.
She had her eyes on Seth in the first thriller.
I got the sense that he's a very good-looking man.
He writes mystery novels in his spare time. So that's a fun thing about Seth. Doesn't come up in this book, weirdly enough, even though this is a mystery novel. But
and for folks who don't know, Seth is the stepfather of Karen Brewer. In the Babysitters Club books. So the Babysitters Club books have a spin-off series called Little Sister, and then Seth Engel is the stepfather of
I think that might track, because those books didn't start till like the mid-90s, right? So Seth could be a little older.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know his history before he moves to Stony Brook to become a carpenter, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so he eventually becomes a carpenter. So that's a spoiler, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So now, Gladiators, we're talking about Jack and Hannah's Patreon show that is about the babysitters.
Little thing. Pretty early in the
each
show.
month.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, I remember I read those Little Sister books, but we're talking about
so did
Sweet
we,
Valley.
Marissa. Let me tell you, so did we.
Yeah. You've read them much more recently than I have. So we've got Miles Robinson.
Yes.
And then we've got somebody named Russell Kincaid. They're
Silver
in the
Fox.
mayoral race.
Yeah.
And
I won't be so presumptuous as to actually introduce a segment from our show, but we do have a segment from our show that's called Guessing the Mystery.
And if you would like to introduce him, Marissa, Jack is giving you the invitation to do so.
All right. Okay.
We're
you
not gonna
can
bring
guess
Liz in, but
what the segment is about. It's where you guess the mystery. And I, on page two of this novel,
got it.
wrote down in my notes, Kincaid did it.
Yeah, right. Because why? Tanner, did you have a guess? Or did you not do that? Because you were like, this is not our show.
Yeah. No, I knew Kincaid did it too. He presents as a shifty gentleman.
Francine is like, there are two people running for mayor. There's this one guy who's like, seems like a mayor type of dude. And then Kincaid is like dark and broodingly handsome, like something out of a gothic novel.
Well, let's read it. Let me read it for you, Gladiator. So there are two pieces to this. One is that Kincaid is hot. Like he is a sexy silver
and he's
fox.
like in his 60s.
Older,
so,
hot.
Yeah. So this is how this gets spelled out. So Jessica is really into Kincaid, and Elizabeth is like, he seems shifty. So Jessica is arguing early on in the book in favor of Kincaid. I still don't see why you want Miles Robinson to be mayor. I think this guy Kincaid is handsome. Her eyes sparkled. He looks like one of those guys you see on the cover of a gothic romance. Dark, rugged, muscular, you know. What Jessica said was true. Kincaid had enormous charisma. He was in his early 60s. That was a surprising beginning of a sentence, given what Jessica has just said about him. I don't remember any of the models on Gothic romance novels being in their early 60s, but whatever. He was in his early 60s and was still a handsome man with angular, well-pronounced features and rugged good looks. But no one in Sweet Valley knew much about him. He had been a private businessman for years and had made a great deal of money. His business was described as import-export, but it wasn't exactly clear what that entailed.
That's from Seinfeld.
He's an importer.
Just imports, no exports?
He's an importer-exporter, okay?
Yeah, that's.
I thought the same thing.
And that Seinfeld stole that from this.
Vandelay
This is
Industries,
88,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah, I guess so.
show your lawsuit, Larry David.
We go on to hear a little bit more about what's up with Kincaid. It started to get creepy in a whole new political way as an American living in the 21st century. Because here's more about Kincaid. Seth is saying this. I wouldn't say he's a crook, Jess, but everything I've read about the guy makes me nervous. I think he's bad news. He frowned. Unfortunately, he seems to have a charismatic hold on people. He goes on. There's also talk of some bad connections he's made in business. He owned a factory in Tijuana that was shut down by the government because of inhumane working conditions. His name has been linked to some people in the world of organized crime as well. But as I said, it's all just talk so far. People like Kincaid. He charms them into thinking he'll be a strong leader. He shrugged. Unless we can get some solid stuff on him, it looks as though he has a good chance of winning.
Wow.
And one of those people who drank the Kool-Aid was Jess. She was like, "I'll vote for him."
Just like, no, he seems great.
Yeah.
Very sexy. He's got my vote.
Yeah, that's all she really cares about. That's all she's looking for in a mayor. Also, she says something about how he seems like he would be a more exciting mayor, which that's just classic Jessica stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if it's ranked choice, like
I don't
everyone's
think they
gonna
do rank
give
choice in
Sweet Valley.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Do we know
It
what
doesn't
county
say.
Sweet Valley's in? You said
Ronoma-
you thought it was orange, but
I thought it was orange, but then other signs point that it might be Los Angeles County. And I gotta say, it's one kind of failing of these books that it doesn't actually ever specify whether it's ranked choice voting in Sweet Valley, California.
That seems
I'm
like
afraid.
a real error.
Yeah.
Never get into that. But to your point about guessing the mystery, it is kind of like, okay, why are we talking about this?
Yeah.
it's not even much of a mystery because they essentially just spell it out. They're like, one guy's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But
Keep your eyes
surely,
peeled.
surely you can't have guessed exactly what shape Kincaid, like what exactly
certainly not.
Kincaid's
No, they,
tongue would have
is-
been.
They
This
blew
book
my
is
mind with this
so
one.
full of just like twists and turns, and like you can just never guess what's coming next.
It's wild. what they
MacGuffins.
come
There's
up
a
with.
blue,
Yeah.
whatever Lamborghini or Porsche or something.
Jaguar, silver blue Jaguar.
Yeah.
You already teased a ghost, so we know that's
Oh,
coming.
there's a ghost. Yeah.
This is where Nicholas Morrow comes in early on
Yeah.
in the book. We haven't heard from Nicholas in a while, honestly, in the main series of books, but we learn that he's been really depressed since his sister died.
Did we learn about that at least? Was there a book about Regina falling in with a bad crowd? or
There
is this-
definitely was a book
Okay.
about that, yes.
That sounds like a sad one.
It was a very sad one, and then there was a whole other book about the kind of falling out of that, where the girl whose house party it was is a pariah and almost runs away from town.
Yikes.
And-
But she turned Bruce Pac-Man around.
Yeah.
Didn't she? Because he was. This is what I learned from this book. I'm not sure if they do it justice in the novel that describes it, but it sounds like Bruce Pac-Man finally saw the value of empathy.
Oh,
thanks to
they
her.
definitely. It's definitely done justice. It's a big change that everyone is really noticing.
Okay.
Unfortunately, now in the 50s, Bruce Patman is definitely back to his old ways.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the Bruce Pac-Man I like, so I'm glad.
Yeah, you guys would recognize him in these later books. But so Elizabeth and Jessica are going to this picnic that the Sweet Valley News is having. I can't believe we're only this far in the book right now. But what are you
Force
going to do?
Nicholas to come along. They're like, you're too mopey.
Yeah.
Come to our company picnic. Jesus Christ. I can name like a million other things I would rather do than go to someone else's company picnic.
I mean, in fairness, Elizabeth does have a good thought, which is that everybody that he knows in Sweet Valley reminds him of Regina because they all are students at Sweet Valley High. So at least this would be a place where he can meet some people that were not students at Sweet Valley High.
Yeah.
He does.
The
He
types
meets
of
a
people
ghost.
who go to a company picnic.
Yeah,
People who work, you mean people who work at the newspaper, or
Yeah.
people who are married to people who work at the newspaper?
he's a real it's a real antidote for depression, though, I would say. I mean, that's just
Well,
a
he goes.
known
He wants to
fact.
go on a. Yeah, no, that's true. He wants to go on a walk, and he's.
I would say it's
Elizabeth
not
is like,
because he makes his plans immediately clear once he gets to the picnic. He's like,
yeah,
I'm going to walk.
I'm
going
gonna
to
go on a walk by myself. Yeah,
If you don't hear from me in a while, don't come.
I'm gonna
looking for
like
me.
go and do a Wuthering Heights. Oh, there's some cliffs overlooking like
Rocky.
tumultuous ocean
Yeah.
splashing
Oh, yeah.
against the rocks. I'm gonna go stand there and let my hair whip around my face.
His
and-
dark hair, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But Elizabeth is not going to let this stand. There's talk about how Nicholas has, oh my goodness, he's been seeing a psychologist. Can you even believe it? He must truly have something wrong
Yeah,
with him.
Jessica has a very funny line. Well, which is like obviously bad, but it's funny how she delivers it. She's like, "Oh man, yeah. Oh, you got
I
it.
got
yeah.
it. Lila heard he's in such a bad shape, his parents are sending him to a psychiatrist.
Oh,
She frowned. Do you really think it's a good idea to bring him tomorrow? Oh, and they get in the car with him, and he talks about how he's been having bad dreams about Regina's death, and Jessica says out loud, ugh.
It's awesome. It rules. I love it. I love it.
No,
It's
we've
so
actually
good.
very recently been talking about how these books maybe don't do a great job of like setting a precedent of whether or not it's okay to seek counseling when you're having emotional, pain. But there's also like direct reference to trauma, which is relatively rare in these books. Anyway, unfortunately, that whole plot line, even though it ties in so perfectly to the ending of the book, just gets dropped. Like there's not another mention of Regina.
Yeah.
And Nicholas is about to meet Barbara.
Well, he moves on.
He moves
Because he
on
meets
to
his
Barbara.
ghost. He meets a ghost.
He meets a ghost.
Right. So, can you guys describe a little bit, like, you already said, Jack, about the cliffs, but, like, what was your impression of this place in Ronoma that Elizabeth and Nicholas happen upon on this hike?
Haunted.
It's very Midsummer vibes.
Oh, okay.
No,
Because-
There was a film that no one's ever seen or heard of that came out a few years ago called Crimson Peak, I think.
Oh, I
or
saw
something
that.
like that. Where it's about an old Victorian mansion that's haunted by a ghost that I think is Loki. Not the guy who plays
Right.
it. And it's Victorian and old and like decrepit and obviously haunted. And that's what this place is too. It's like a old mansion buried in the woods. There's a senile old housekeeper,
Josine.
Josine, yeah, and a ghost who wanders
I have a passage, and this is kind of where I got my Midsummer vibes from. It's like, I get, like, this is supposed to be like gothic romance to
Definitely.
a large extent, but there's another side of it that, like, occasionally, like, Barbara will show up in, like, a beautiful summery dress.
Right.
And, like,
Barbara
be
is the
like
name
this-
of the girl.
Yeah, of the girl.
Right.
Here's a passage. Let me read this to you. When he finally reached the clearing, it was humming with birds and insects, and the smell of flowers was overpowering. He squinted, trying to guess where in the shadows Barbara might be. Then he saw her emerging from a path across from him. She looked like a vision in a dream. Every time he saw her, he had to pinch himself to make sure he was awake. Her dress shone like silver in the twilight, and she had flowers in her hair.
That's
a
very
ghost.
Midsummer.
And it's midsummery. It's like
think he's
this
on-
is really nice, but something's terribly wrong.
Do you think he's on
Yeah.
psychedelics like they were in Midsummer?
I would kind of assume so.
Oh, and that's spoilers for Midsummer. Although not really. It doesn't have any effect.
I don't think it has that
any
much
impact
bearing.
on the plot at all.
Not really. I don't think he is on psychedelics. I think maybe just sort of a side effect of his trauma experience is that he seems to be kind of forgetful, because there's a lot of going over a plan of how he's going to approach Barbara's house that I found pretty interesting. The plan is the same every time, but let's start by saying Nicholas falls immediately in love with this Barbara.
He
meets an old-timey
beautiful
woman
Swiss
in
girl.
old-timey outfits.
Yeah.
And she's so pleasant, and she wants to invite them in for tea, but she can't. And there's a lot of talk of, like, I can't get into it now. I can't explain it to you now.
There's something wrong.
She's got an uncle.
Yeah.
Right, an uncle,
Uncle
but
John.
he's not really her uncle, but he's like her grandmother's cousin. Don't worry about it, guys. Don't worry about it. It's kind of Barbara's vibe.
He's very
Like,
strict.
Yeah, I'm not, and like, don't worry about me, it's fine. And Nicholas really wants to see her again, but they run away because Barbara is being called, and she looks so scared, like she's being called into the house, and she's so frightened. And Elizabeth and Nicholas get a glimpse of Uncle John, and he looks so terrible. And they leave Barbara's and go back to the picnic, and they tell Jessica all about it, and they're super worried about Barbara just based on the events of these few minutes.
Right.
And Nicholas is in love with her, and also he doesn't know her last name or her phone number.
I don't know her last name.
No, I think we still don't.
Well, a lot of ghosts don't have last names, and a lot of
Yeah.
ghosts don't have phone numbers because they died before phones.
Yeah,
So-
that's actually true. And a lot of people don't realize that. They don't have
Right.
cell phones or anything because it's before.
Well, she wouldn't have had a cell phone in this book anyway. So
Yeah,
I thought about
that's
that a
awesome.
lot. It was a really complicating factor for them that they had no cell phones.
Well, because she's a ghost.
And ghosts don't, and you can't call them. I mean, you can, but not with a phone because
Right.
they died before phones. And a lot of people
That's a good
don't know
point.
that. Thank you.
But even if she were not a ghost, is what I'm saying, she still wouldn't have had a cell phone.
I think it's kind of both of our points, Tanner. I think we both made the point.
I mean, at this point, there's no indication that she is anything but a ghost.
Yeah,
At
she
this
doesn't have
point
a
in the
phone.
book.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
At this point in the book, it is a little bit like, what on earth could possibly be going on here?
Not for me. I was like, it's clearly a ghost. No phone.
Yeah.
And I think
There's also, I should say, I think at this point on their way out, they spot the silver blue Jaguar in the
yeah,
driveway of Uncle John's house.
yes.
And they're curious about that, but not curious enough to really investigate.
No, not
No.
yet.
Well, why would they? It's just a car, you know?
Yeah.
So they wonder, Nicholas has some line he says to Barbara, like, how could Uncle John ever be mean to you? He's your uncle, right? which seemed like a strange piece of logic.
There's never been a mean uncle.
Right. Yeah. In the history of both fact and fiction, all uncles are always very nice to their nieces and grandnieces.
To Jack's earlier point, the silver blue Jaguar in the driveway is the point in which I guess the mystery.
That's when you guess the mystery.
Yep.
You were like, you know what kind of guy sounds like he would drive a silver blue Jaguar?
Yeah.
Russell Kincaid.
Businessman who's running
import-export.
Russell Kincaid. Yeah.
And then the mystery was, what's he doing at this house?
Yeah, why is he doing it?
Well, so
I will say, literally impossible to guess.
That is tough to guess.
Yeah.
That is tough to guess.
Partially because the book through Barbara is not like purposefully withholding information from us, right? Like she's not going to tell what's going on, but gradually the information comes out that doesn't seem like it has any bearing on anything. Barbara's mother was born to a woman, a mother herself, you might say, Barbara's grandmother, whose name was also Barbara, who had the same birthday as Barbara. And furthermore, looked exactly like Barbara.
Yep.
And also died on her 21st birthday when she fell off of those cliffs out by the house, the cliffs that Jack was referring to earlier.
Yeah. And it is uncanny how much they look like each other. It's just wild.
Yeah. So I mean, they look so much alike that Josine, the
housekeeper,
sort of
can't keep it straight.
Right, and that's one of the first things we learned about her is that she's a little addled. She confuses Barbara for Barbara a lot, which is confusing as a reader as well.
It was confusing as a reader. Yeah.
Yeah. And Uncle John repeatedly kind of forces young Barbara to walk along the cliffs.
She's afraid of them too, though.
She is afraid of them.
She has a deep fear of the cliffs, but Uncle John makes her walk the dog.
Uncle John is like, you have to dress up in like a weird old timey dress and walk along the cliffs with your dog
to help her get over her fear.
Sure,
right. That's the story. We have to tell the audience about Rory.
Oh, sure. Rory's the dog.
That's a dog, and they don't have so there's a thing for movies, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's like you can look up whether the dog's going to die in the movie, and I need that because I can't be right with a thing if they're going to kill the dog. I was worried about you,
Jack.
Yeah. So this whole damn book, I was like, fuck, is the dog going to be okay? And the dog doesn't seem to be okay for a large portion of the book.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that is an important motivator in terms of Barbara cooperating with all of these things that we gradually learn are things her uncle is forcing her to do, like wear old-timey clothing and never leave the house. Like she can't see anybody.
Don't make friends.
She can't have any friends. She can't date boys, which is a big problem for Nicholas. Part of the reason that she goes along with that is because Uncle John has a little bit of power over her and that he threatens to like hurt or discipline Josine somehow, which would hurt Barbara's feelings, or he threatens to like take her dog away. And at one point, he makes good on this threat, right? He takes Rory away.
The dog disappears.
Well, he threatens to throw the dang dog off the cliff a lot, too.
He does kick the dog at one point.
Yeah, he does.
Which
by this point,
the girls and Nicholas witnessed this. So at some point, they I think it's on their second visit to Barbara. They all meet up with her in the woods. I don't know why the twins keep coming along for these little visits.
Yeah, well, I think it has a little bit to do with Uncle John, or the book would have us believe. At first, I think they think that Nicholas is like persona non grata because he's a boy and Barbara's not allowed to date. And so maybe if it's not just a boy coming by, but it's like friends coming by, that would be cool.
No, this guy is not cool with any of that.
But like Barbara yells at them and tells them to flee, and they don't. They just hide behind like a bush and they watch the interaction between Uncle John and Barbara, and he kicks the dog.
Yeah.
And Nicholas wants to just go like level this dude.
Do a big fight.
Yeah, he wants to go, punch him. As do we, as the readers.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Yeah, but the girls, the twins stop him.
Right.
And they go back to the place where they always park Nicholas's Jeep, in the same place, in clear sight.
I know.
Every time.
Every time along the road up to the house. Yeah.
I mean, this is the pattern of the story, right? Nicholas shows up at Barbara's house. He tosses some pebbles to get her attention out the window. She comes down and she says, we can't meet here. Not like this. Not now. But they meet somewhere anyway. And then they talk about how much they love each other. And then Uncle John shows up or they can hear footsteps and she has to run back. Also, one of the things that makes Barbara able to leave the house to sneak away is that Uncle John is frequently meeting with some guy, somebody who comes to the house. And that's the guy in the silver blue Jaguar.
He forces her to leave while the guy in the silver blue Jaguar is there.
Right. He especially likes it if she'll go take Rory for a walk on the cliffs when the guy in the silver blue Jaguar is there. He really likes when that happens.
When the mystery should have clicked into place for all of us, but I will say Francine / Kate
slash whoever
are maybe not the greatest mystery writers.
Unlike okay, Tanner, come on.
Sorry.
Well,
Wait, they're not the greatest mystery writers? You failed to guess the mystery.
No,
that's
I know,
the definition of a really good mystery.
You're right,
they baked your noodle.
Yeah.
Well, here is a clue to, I don't know, maybe things should have complicated somewhat. Something that happens, this is fairly late on in the book, is that Nicholas is talking to the twins. Like, basically, Nicholas and the twins have conspired to free Barbara from this prison. They talk a lot about calling the cops. They talk a lot about, but there's always a reason not to, which is pretty much always true in Sweet Valley.
Yeah.
Especially in the thrillers.
I'm broadly, I was like broadly on board with the plausibility of they're not calling the cops in this.
Because,
I mean, like,
what are they
there's no
reporting?
reason they couldn't, like, tell their parents or, like,
Right.
But, like, if this were a movie, they would call the cops and the cops would like check in and the guy would be like, yep, I live here.
Or
if
if it was like a
housekeeper.
dark
Right.
movie, the cops would check in and the cops would like insist on coming in and then Uncle John would like kill the cop. You know?
Yeah, exactly. There's no, it's not, you might as well just not call the
Right.
cops. I bought it. Like, they just don't have quite enough evidence. And this is what Francine and Kay do so well is they don't give us much evidence. It's like something shady's going on here. But
so your stance is that they're actually really good mystery writers.
they're excellent mystery writers, and they nailed it.
Right.
Okay.
But like, I don't know, it makes sense if you like went to someone's house and you met them for the first time and it seemed like their uncle was mean. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's not
not
much.
really enough to call the cops.
That's actually happened to me quite a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. I never once thought to call the cops.
No, you never once. Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah, that tracks. Okay. So there's this other element in the book that we alluded to at the beginning of our conversation, which is this painter story that Jessica is covering.
Yeah.
And she's not having much luck.
There's like an artist retreat village in Ronoma County.
It is in Ronoma. And there's a moment here where Jessica says to Liz, don't you think it's a weird coincidence that Lazaro's artist colony was in Ronoma? Yeah, it is weird, Elizabeth agreed. Up until last week, neither of them had ever heard of Ronoma. Now it was suddenly all they talked about.
Up until last week, it didn't exist.
Yeah. Well, maybe the
Francine and
Ronoma
Kate decided it existed.
Ronoma as a whole is a kind of a ghost in a way, you know?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And Lazarus is Paul Lazarus, who's this old artist who started this. Is he like a known quantity in the Sweet Valley universe?
No. I mean, as they mentioned in the book, Jessica's like, am I just slow here? Like, I never heard of this guy. Have you ever heard of him, Elizabeth? And she hasn't either.
Yeah.
But
he becomes pretty key to the plot, though.
Right.
Again, you would never
Right.
know that at this point, though.
Well, because another thing that they find
because
out...
Francine and Kate are such gifted
Right.
mystery
Yeah, they're so good at it.
Yeah.
Well, here's another little breadcrumb we get. Elizabeth, meanwhile, in her research about Russell Kincaid, they're both, and for her guy's article, whoever she's supporting, the writer she's supporting, she uncovers the fact that Russell Kincaid really wanted to be a painter when he was a kid.
That's interesting. Well, it seems like it's not, but it turns out in retrospect to have been interesting. At the
Right.
time,
Yes, the mark of a really good.
as a report, and it's a mark of a really great mystery, actually. Yeah, thank you.
That's, I mean, yeah. As an aside, I found it so trippy to be reading about this guy. Like, we know he's not that old. He's 61. That he graduated from high school in like 1945. Like, she's looking at his old yearbook. And it was
Right.
really, like, hard to wrap my head around that. Like, that was before either of my parents were born. But this character in this book...
1945 was literally the end of World War II. That was like... It was a different world at that point.
It just really hits home sometimes. It's like, oh, yeah, this was the 80s. The 80s was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
I know. It's just like time. Time marches forward, right? Like, it shouldn't be shocking. And yet somehow it's surprising all over again. And also surprising is that Josine is increasingly getting
Josine is the worst in this book. Josine, I'm not interested in you or your
The
bullshit.
bizarre part is, like,
she's
she's senile. She's very old and she's senile, but every now and then she'll have these like weird moments of clarity,
right,
where she seems to fully understand exactly what's going on.
Well, and she later admits that she's like kind of faking it.
right, but under duress.
Under duress. I'm not Josine. There are like a bunch of different ways that Josine could have handled this.
It's also strange. Like, she's faking it when Uncle John is nowhere near around too, you know?
Yeah, Josine,
and, like,
do
end?
you have a phone, Josine?
No, maybe she's a ghost.
Maybe she's a ghost.
Well,
Okay,
here's
now I'm
something
realizing
that
she must
Barbara
be a
tells
ghost.
Nicholas about Josine.
It's like her house, right? It's her
Essentially,
house.
right. Because Uncle John, spoiler alert, is not related to any of them at all. He just
Not
like
even a little, no.
tricked this old woman
Yeah.
into going along with his scheme, which we'll get
Including
to.
kind of pretending to be senile. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
Marissa, you were going to read a passage.
Well,
but
I
she
mean,
doesn't have a phone.
it just goes to show you what, like, you know, a guy comes in real blustery and you've got this old lady and she's just like afraid for her life, so she lets him take over.
Okay.
It is a little weird.
Well,
Like,
if
how
you
did
put
that
it
happen
that
in the
way,
first place,
yeah.
John? Or Josine?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, she could call the I just think she could call the cops.
She doesn't have
Oh,
a phone.
definitely she should.
She's a
She
ghost.
should have written a letter
she doesn't
to
have the
Barbara's
phone 'cause
parents.
She's a ghost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she can't write a letter to Barbara's parents, Marissa. They're on an
Yeah.
expedition in Greece.
Yeah. Come on.
Well, she could have written a covert letter to Barbara? Just
The
like slipped it under the
Ghost
door?
Barbara?
No, well, I'm talking about the real Barbara. But I realized
Young
that that's the
Barbara.
same person. What we're talking about is the same person. This morning, she came in and tried to give me a pair of cufflinks. She kept saying, "They're Jack's. I saved them for you." When I asked her who Jack was, she started to cry and she kept mumbling, "He needs you, Barbara. You're all he ever had."
I get that a lot.
Wow, that sounds pretty frightening, Nicholas said. It was, Barbara confirmed. The strange thing is that she'll be fine for hours, sometimes even days. And then something seems to remind her of the past and she slips back into another world. My birthday is really upsetting her. She keeps following me around with a haunted look on her face, crying. Barbara shivered. Something terrible must have happened to my grandmother on the night of her birthday. Josine won't tell me what it is, but the way she cries and throws her arms around me, I'm sure of it. She begs me to stay away from the cliffs, tells me she has to protect me. So,
Yeah.
things are getting weird up at
Josine-
Bayview House, which is what this place is called. I don't think we mentioned
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Bayview
kind of like
House.
an estate name. Josine confused me so much because it's like, is she senile? Or is she just pretending to be senile under duress from Uncle John's threats? Because it seems like the latter.
It's a little bit the latter. She's like not all there, but she's also laying it on.
It is kind of amazing that someone who is a little bit not all there is able to lean into it.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's a
that
good
you could
point.
like dial up that notch.
Yeah.
That seems unexpected.
Right.
Great,
Because
a mark of a great mystery.
even in that scene you were reading, it seems like she is playing up the fact that she thinks young Barbara is old dead Barbara, but only for the sake of selling this narrative that young Barbara is old dead Barbara for the sake of the mystery in this book that will eventually.
You think she's old dead Barbara, but like in the past of old dead Barbara, you're like something's gonna happen to you on your birthday. It's
Right.
like, well,
But
which
Uncle
is it?
John
Like-
does threaten.
Yeah, he's bad.
He does
Yeah.
threaten to kill her on her birthday.
He's
And
bad,
that's a
and he does
spoiler
threaten to
for
kill her
later
on her
in the book.
birthday. And I'm not voting for his brother in any election.
Oh, spoiler alert. Well, so this Paul Lazaro exhibit finally starts, right?
Yeah.
He's this artist that Jessica is covering his artist opening that he's very famous, but nobody's heard of him. Right. And they find out a bunch of information about him gradually. They keep on going to this place called the morgue, like the news morgue, where old news stories are kept at the news.
Cool. That's cool. I like that.
That's very cool.
I would love to be the guy who, like, in the movie of this, I would be like to be the guy who, like, runs the news morgue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come up to my, like, little cage window.
Yeah.
Just like, yes.
I don't know why. For some reason, I was tempted to say, I'll keep that in mind. As if somehow this movie is
I think if
power.
anyone's making the movie, it's going to be
Well, you work in Hollywood, you know? You can make this happen.
Maybe someday. This would be one. This would be a good one to make into a movie. Although we can talk about this more in the extra drama episode, but I might argue that much of this book has already been made into a movie by Alfred Hitchcock. But
interesting.
So they're at this exhibit, they're doing the research, and they find out that Paul Lazaro's daughter, Barbara, died on the cliffs on her 21st birthday. And it's just like, oh, this is all, he has this painting of her daughter, and they see the painting in the exhibit, and it's like, holy shit, that's our Barbara. And that leads Jessica to say, I can't stand it, Jessica moaned. She's got the same name as her grandmother and the same birthday? You guys, this is weird. I think Barbara is a ghost.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jess. I agree.
Thank you, Jess. And everyone's
That's
like
what I've
pretty
been saying this whole episode. And every time I say it, Marissa rolls her eyes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of poor Nicholas, who really doesn't want to be in love with a ghost. I mean, his damn sister just died. Like, he's trying to move past.
It's
that.
awesome
cool.
to be
That's
in love with a
interesting.
ghost.
You can say that to
Okay.
people at a party.
Let
They're
me-
like, hey,
okay,
what'd you
hang
do?
on.
He's
Thought of
like,
it
oh,
that
sorry,
way.
my dad can't leave the cliffs because she's a
Let's
ghost.
parse this for a second. This is a guy who goes on a solitary walk along the romantic cliffs and sees somebody dressed in like a 50s summer dress who's the most beautiful girl he's ever seen, but there's like something mysteriously wrong with her as she like shimmers into view, and he's not somebody who wants to fall in love with a ghost.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about it that way.
That sounds like a prime
What
candidate.
do you call that? Paraphilia?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what Nicholas would really like about if Barbara were really a ghost is that she would have to stay in the same place all the time, so he could just like
Perfect.
always
He would like
find her
that.
there.
Well, and you know what else is nice? She can't die again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
true.
we know of,
all right,
yeah.
Well, yeah. I
put
don't
it
know
on the
ghosts.
list, on the old bucket list. Date a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The twins and Nicholas, they don't know what they're doing, but like somehow they're just trying to like free Barbara from whatever it is that's going on at Bayview House. They don't know. But here's something that struck me. So at the beginning of chapter 9, okay, you guys, Nicholas whispered, let's go over the plan one more time. All right, so he's got a plan.
Yeah.
Here's the plan. First of all, remember, we have to be as quiet as possible, right? Sure, Jessica mumbled. Elizabeth just nodded. The plan is to sneak up behind the house and get Barbara's attention by throwing pebbles.
It's not a good plan.
But if anyone comes out, if you see her uncle anywhere, just run back to the Jeep as fast as you can.
Good. He's an old man. You can probably outrun him.
Not only is it a dumb plan, it's exactly the same thing that Nicholas has been doing every time he goes to Barbara's house. Exactly the same thing.
Well, and he also, like, at one point gets, like, his tires all slashed and his windshield broken, and there's, like, a note that's like, leave my
Nicholas is
sweet
not
Barbara
firing on
alone.
all cylinders. This
he
the
has
whole
to
novel.
he has to hitchhike to the next town over and like call a tow truck and get his car repaired, and his Jeep is going to be in the shop for a few days. I mean, it
Does
can't be
not
that long
deter
because he's
him
driving it
at-
again soon.
in any way, though. He's just like, well,
Yeah.
I got that kind of money.
Yeah.
He
I'll
does
replace
have
all
that
four
kind of money.
tires and a windshield.
Yeah. That's a rich white guy privilege for
I
you.
can do
right
this
there.
all day, Uncle John.
I don't know what context this is in, but I do have another highlighted passage here that I liked a lot.
Oh, I can help find the context.
Great. Perfect.
She might as well be a ghost, he thought, his heart breaking. It seemed there was no way he could protect her or rescue her from whatever or whoever was threatening her.
Whomever.
He loved her with all his heart, but he couldn't seem to take her from her world into his. Now that's deep, huh?
Right. So I think that's probably in reference to the film Ghost,
Right.
where Patrick Swayze wants to invite. Who is that? Demi Moore.
No,
Demi
it's.
Moore.
Can I stop
Demi
you for a
Moore
second?
into his lovemaking, but he can't because
It's. He says from her world into his. It's from.
well,
the,
it's reversed.
it's from the Jet Li film, The One.
Right. The multiverse.
Right? Where it's the multiverse, where if you haven't seen it, which I hope you have because it really is an important movie, there are I don't know how many versions.
Marissa, did you tell your listeners to watch the one before this?
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to describe it if you've already told people to watch the one.
I'm trying to think back over the past 55 to 60 episodes.
Oh, you must.
Just last week on the outro of last week, you're like, I'm gonna have Jack and Tanner on. Please do watch the one. Jet Li's the one.
Okay.
Did you do
All right,
that?
I probably did that. Gladiators, wherever you're listening to this, I did that, right? I think I did that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't describe too much of it, but it's a multiverse, and there are, let's say, 13 different versions of you. And if you kill every version of you except your actual self, you gain all their strength and power. Right. And so that's what he's saying, bringing her into his world.
Right. You can't do that because it would be dangerous.
You would get the other version of Jet Li into your world, and then it would make you more powerful if you killed them.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what he wants. That's a good
thing. He doesn't want
that.
He's afraid of that because she would become too powerful. If she killed this version of Barbara, which I think she already has, or someone has.
Sure. Okay.
She got.
But you can't kill a ghost twice. That's something. This is basic stuff that we've already established. I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why this book is just so impenetrable. And
it's why it's such a good mystery.
Leaves all of this on us.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the climax here, and
no, we're not. We are miles away from the climax.
Oh, okay.
Nicholas takes Barbara out to dinner.
I thought we were just skipping all that.
Oh,
you want to
no,
talk about
that's
that?
so crucial.
All right,
so
please
crucial.
Go. Tell us all about the dinner.
Nicholas insists on sneaking Barbara out of her house. She says she's sick, so Uncle John won't come check on her, and because he's, I guess, like a germaphobe, and she sneaks out the window, and they go to dinner, and on the way,
it's such a bad idea.
There's so many weird things happen. Like the valet parking attendant recognizes her, or I can't remember who it is now. Like someone recognizes her, and then they go into the restaurant, and they see Russell Kincaid.
Yeah.
Except they don't know it's Russell Kincaid.
And Barbara doesn't see him.
And Barbara doesn't see him, just Nicholas.
Which doesn't really matter, except that she might notice that he is ogling her in shock and horror.
Yeah, Russell Kincaid's just completely flabbergasted, immediately gets up and pays and leaves. And Nicholas Morrow's like,
but Nicholas Morrow, at no point, he recognizes that that's probably the guy who's driving the Jaguar. And
because that Jaguar's in the parking lot.
Yeah, they see the Jaguar.
But at no point is he he doesn't know what the situation is with this dude and Uncle John. He's at no point is he I'm putting her in danger.
No, he's
we're caught.
He's flaunting her.
No,
he's I better keep this from her.
Even though the whole Jeep smashing thing, I believe, has already happened at this point.
It has, yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad. And then
Nicholas, bad.
Russell Kincaid immediately gets up and leaves, and Nicholas is like, "Well, I'm going to enjoy my dinner."
Yeah. Well, maybe he really does think that Barbara is a ghost because he's not worried about her getting killed again.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. So he knows again, and it's wheels within wheels. He knows.
Oh, and he doesn't care if he dies because then he'll be able to.
Is he a ghost?
Like Beetlejuice style,
Oh, the '90s Casper movie with Christina Ricci.
Yep.
Is that what happens in that? If she dies, she wants to die so that she can be with Evan Sawa forever?
If I remember, I haven't seen it since I was maybe 9, but.
Man, the 90s were dark, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the 80s.
Yeah. They go back to Uncle John's house, and of course, Russell Kincaid is there. He's fled back to.
Well, it's just the Jaguar is already parked in the place it's always parked on the side of the road.
Right.
Apparently, there's no other way to get into Bayview House other than this one road and this one path. Because there is another time in the book where once again. Nicholas is like, hey, okay, twins, so do you know what the plan is? And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if the plan was exactly the same again?
Yeah.
And then I read...
How long do you usually record for? 2.5 hours? 3?
We'll get there. Then I read... Let me just tell you the plan first, Nicholas said. He looked up at the house and frowned. It's really foggy up there. It may be hard to see. I'm going to run up behind the house and try to get Barbara's attention by throwing pebbles at her window.
Yep.
Whoever answers, just distract them. If it's Josine, keep talking to her while I sneak Barbara out back through the woods.
It didn't work the first 5 times. Uncle John literally caught me every single time.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so weird that the twins are helping him again, too, because at this point, the twins are even more afraid for their lives.
They're trying to get a scoop.
Oh, that's true. But there was that scene where Elizabeth is at the newspaper office, and Jessica calls to talk to her. And it's like late at night, very spooky stuff.
Oh yeah, the novel opens. They do a cool thing where they like at the beginning of this novel they give this passage. It's the first page as a teaser for the scariest part of the novel. Did you read?
I skipped it.
Are you aware of this? Yeah. Oh, it's smart to skip it. So like the literal first page of the book is that, and then it dives into it.
That's for the people who are like in the bookstore, just flipping through stuff, and they're like, "What is this?"
Like, holy shit! Yeah. But it's a phantom phone caller.
Oh, sure. Well, that's really your area of expertise.
Yeah, we're pretty familiar with phantom phone callers.
Well,
yeah, it's like a sex deviant in the Babysitters Club books, but in this one, it's Liz.
Yeah.
Well, this teaser also does the work of putting the potential buyer of the book under the impression that this book is really about Jessica and Elizabeth instead of about Nicholas Morrow and a ghost.
It's about Nicholas Morrow and a ghost from Switzerland.
From Switzerland. That's important too, actually.
Yeah.
These books are obsessed with Switzerland.
Oh, really?
And Nicholas never even says, hey, you know what? My sister was in Switzerland getting her hearing fixed before she was killed. Never brings it up because he never mentions his sister to Barbara.
Oh, you mean killed by, like, the cartels?
That's true. It's killed is not really the word, but I mean, in a way, like all of the bad like kids conspired in a way to get her at that party. Yeah, fate killed her.
Yeah,
too, as it does us all.
Yeah, true.
I don't know why the twins agreed to go on this perilous.
There's no reason.
Journey into the woods to save Barbara from her Uncle John, but they do. It's the weirdest thing in the world. They all go up there. They're like, "Here's the plan. One of us is going to go to the back door and throw pebbles at Barbara's window. I volunteer for that," Nick says. And then he says, "One of you needs to stay here at the car and be our getaway driver."
And Jessica's like, "I'll fucking do that."
No. And
Jessica
then he's like,
wants to go.
And then he's like, and then one of you needs to go to the front door and like distract Uncle John. And Jessica's like, "I'll do that." And Nicholas is like, "No, we're going to draw straws." And it's like, why? Jessica volunteered.
Yeah. There's only 3 of you.
Yeah.
Well, look,
it's selfless. Each Wakefield twin really wants to be the one who puts herself in danger.
Are we allowed to talk about the cover of this?
The straw. Oh, yeah.
We must talk about the cover.
Oh, we must, right? Yes, I thought we did. So I don't want to preempt you. Do we do it at a certain time? No, please.
Let's talk about it now. No time like the present.
Okay. They're both scared in such interestingly different ways in the cover of this book.
Don't they look beautiful?
They do look really beautiful. Yeah. They look lovely.
I don't usually take the time to say that.
And you can really see why one of them is a nerd and one of them is cool, you know?
Yeah. So it's like the two of them and they're both scared. And then behind them is like a gothic looking like mansion
very
and the
cool
cliffs and the sunset.
Unusually cool backdrop for an early Sweet Valley book. Usually they're just in blank nothing space. Oil painting background.
Oh, yeah.
What Hodges Swallow has done here,
James Matthews, but I get your meaning.
Sorry, Dave Matthews did the art.
James Matthews.
Is he related to Dave?
The artist,
I think it was his grandmother's cousin.
The artist has depicted them both like reacting to something in completely idiosyncratic ways.
Indeed.
Elizabeth is saying like, "Oh fuck, someone's gonna kill me," I think.
No, she almost looks like she's looking at something like embarrassing something that's looking at something
her fingers. We're all doing it, but the gladiators
something
can't
that
see
happening to someone else. You know, she's just like, "Oh God, I'm glad that's not me."
Her fingertips are framing her mouth, which is in an O.
And then Jessica, to me, what she's got her like hand on her throat, and her expression is like, "I can't believe he said that."
I know.
Yeah.
Here's the problem: is like this scene never happens in the book.
Well, I never.
They're
true.
never in the same place where they're being scandalized by the same thing. Unless
maybe this is when Uncle John is kicking Rory.
That could be right. That might be it. Okay, and that actually works because Jessica's like, "Oh man, what the hell? That's so like."
Look at the cover and think about that, and it really tracks.
Yeah. No, that could be it.
But they go to the Uncle John's house to save Barbara, and Liz gets pistol whipped.
She sure does. Poor Liz. She's really been through the ringer.
She's on her way to distract
she trips
Uncle
and
John.
sprains her
She
ankle.
trips and sprains her ankle.
Come on.
And then she's just like lying there in the woods. And eventually Jess comes and finds her, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go do your part of the plan. You lie here, and don't die." And she can't even do that.
She can't even do that.
Uncle John comes along with a gun, and instead of shooting her, he just cracks her over the head with it.
Yeah.
Drags her back to the house.
I mean, good thing. I'm glad he was reluctant to use the gun, because he certainly doesn't seem to mind.
He uses the gun.
Well, he was also,
that's true. That's true.
This is my point about the dog. This dude seems like a very sketchy guy. But he
has no
why didn't he kill the dog?
Dying? You know?
It's because he literally is a Scooby-Doo villain. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. He just wants to scare Russell Kincaid.
He wants to scare his brother. Yeah.
Right. So we learn now that Uncle John is actually Russell Kincaid's brother, who Russell Kincaid was in business with, but abruptly left out of his business.
Because he wanted to run for mayor.
Right. For some reason. Because he wanted to be popular. You know, he just wanted the love of the people. That he
This is a lot like Elizabeth
painting.
and Jessica. Holy shit.
What if they were twins? They should have been twins.
That's what Francine is trying to say, right? This is it. Like, he wanted to be popular, and that was what he cared about ultimately.
We haven't read that many Sweet Valley books, but it's always ends with Liz doing some overly elaborate scheme to embarrass Jessica.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah,
Uncle John has developed an overly elaborate scheme to scare and embarrass Russell Kincaid into not running for mayor.
This is that. It's just like a heightened version of it. It's
and that's
so interesting.
And Baby Bees, that's the mystery here.
Yeah,
Russell.
We say gladiators on this show, I think.
Gladiators.
It's true, but I was going to let it slide.
That doesn't sound right. Baby Bees, I think, is right. Uncle John has developed this entire plot to trick Russell Kincaid into thinking that the ghost of Barbara is back to scare him and kill Barbara.
Yeah, Russell Kincaid is the one who pushed Barbara off of the cliff.
It was a long time ago.
He was in love with her, and she was secretly married to this guy named Jack. She even had a secret baby, and Russell found out and was jealous, and he was literally like,
Barbara's
if she
mom.
can't have me... Oh, wait, if I can't have her, no one can.
Right.
So, verbatim.
Yeah, and that's the mystery, and the girls sort of uncover this when they realize that Liz and Rory the dog are in the garden shed.
Well, but before that happens, Jessica and Nick actually see Russell Kincaid fall to his death.
Wrestling,
right.
Yeah.
He's like wrestling young Barbara on the cliff.
Right. Somehow her siren song accidentally...
I don't know why. Why would you...
Yeah.
If you saw a ghost of someone you killed, why would
you can't kill a ghost?
Wrestle them.
We know this. It's the central premise of this book. They can't die twice.
I feel like Russell Kincaid's motivation must have been, you darn ghost, get out of here. No, you want to tell people I killed you, but you better not.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was going to yell at her.
Because so for folks who are listening, maybe this is obvious to you, but maybe it's not. Like, Russell Kincaid has been fooled into thinking that this granddaughter
Barbara
is the ghost of his grandmother, who was his girlfriend, but who didn't
he murdered
really like him,
and got away with her murder. Not even his girlfriend.
So he dies.
Not his rival's girlfriend. Yeah,
and young Barbara also falls off the cliff.
But she gets rescued by Nicholas.
Dramatically, she's like hanging on the edge, like in a thriller.
Very sweet.
A super thriller.
And,
he did a good job in the end. He did a good job in the end. If he hadn't showed up, it was a bad plan. The stones of the window, the whole thing is bad. But if he had not been there, things might have turned out pretty badly.
We're getting to a part of the book where I did have an oh my God moment. That's the moment when I'm reading these books and say out loud, oh my God.
Okay.
This time it was a happy oh my God moment, believe it or not, against all odds. The first thing she was aware of when Barbara flung open the door, this is the door to like an old studio space where Elizabeth is tied up. The first thing she was aware of when Barbara flung open the door was the sound of barking. Rory was running around them in frantic circles, intoxicated with joy at finding his mistress again.
Come on, Francine, don't do this to me.
Rory's alive. I think it's really surprising because all we know about Rory is that Rory barks incessantly, and I've known terriers like that, right? Like they do that. That's accurate.
How do they not hear him in the shed for that many days?
For like weeks at this point. Somehow
also,
Uncle John has kept him shut up.
Kudos to Uncle John for going out there every day, keeping Rory company,
feeding the dog, taking him for a walk.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my oh my god moment was.
Oh, please.
How little Ned and Alice Wakefield gave a shit about their daughter being pistoled. They like go and meet them at the hospital, and they're like, "You're good, right?" And Liz is like, "Yeah, I guess."
She's like,
"Yeah,
fine.
Great. We're gonna go back home."
Well, they're like, tell us what the fuck happened here, and she's like, "Oh, well, we'll wait for Jess to get here," and they're like, "Okay." It's like, no, like.
I think it's the other way around. Not to correct you. Like Jessica is like, no, let's wait till we're allowed to go see Elizabeth, and then we can tell you together. And then I'm picturing the next like 45 minutes in the waiting room of the hospital. Yeah. Like they're just staring at the ceiling. Like
they just don't give a shit. They're like, yeah, whatever. It's a super mystery or super thriller. Yeah. Like this is gonna happen, you know?
Yeah.
So then they get a full confession out of Uncle John who
gives it easily.
They're like allowed to just be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you guys can stay for the confession
room.
Jessica's at the police station till 2 a.m.
This is where we get into the world of the Babysitters Club mysteries, because that often will happen in a Babysitters Club
where the
mystery.
villain will sort of like admit to everything.
He'll confess, and like the sergeant will be like, "Hang on, wait a second, like." These 5 13-year-old girls need to hear this. And they'll like all like file into the like interrogation room.
They'll also be there when you get the lethal injection.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, the police in Stony Brook are not necessarily the greatest.
Oh, except one of them. I don't remember his name now.
Sergeant Johnson.
Sergeant Johnson. He's the coolest.
Yeah, he's the best.
He loves the girls. He invites them on all his capers.
Well, he's also, I mean, but this like kind of backs up Marissa's point. He's always like, all right, I gotta go to my source. I really don't have any leads on this one. I gotta go to my source. Her name is Dawn Schaefer. Like, she always seems to know what's going on.
Well, honestly, that follows the pattern of these thrillers a little bit, too, because I kept thinking how strange it was, now having read 3 of them, that the police haven't said anything like, boy, Jessica Wakefield, you sure are spending a lot of time here at the station telling us about crimes. Like, what's that about? Like, there's not a lot of acknowledgement of the fact that they have already essentially, like, solved 2 murders
This is a major one, too. The mayor did a murder in the past and was involved in a crazy kidnapping plot that led to his death. Yeah, that's pretty big.
That would make headlines, you know?
Yeah. Well, and there is a fascinating and really pretty stirring epilogue to Barbara's story, which is that she finds out that her grandfather, Jack, is still alive.
Right.
I was like, yeah, why are there still like 30 more pages of this book?
It really did go on and on.
Yeah, and then there's like it's her birthday. She's not killed. Uncle John does threaten to kill her on her birthday, too, at some point.
Yeah. But then once he's caught, he's really like, the wind goes out of his sails. He was like, and it's like the worst plan. He was like, obviously, all right, it's pretty obvious now to all of you what was going on, right? Like, I was mad at my brother because he like swindled me out of money. So I was like, well, why not pretend that the ghost of the woman that he killed is back and just like kind of get him like wrapped around the axle of that.
Yeah,
and it'll really
that's
upset
the
him.
mastery of
and like
Francine and Kate's mystery writing.
Yeah, and he's like, I didn't want him to die. I just wanted him to drop out of the race.
I just wanted him to drop out of the race because like you can predict that that's like how he would react to like thinking that a ghost is back.
They push him a little bit on that. I think it might even be the twins that push him on that. Like, no, you did want him to die, and he's like, you're right.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, no, I kind of wanted him.
I was fine with it.
Yeah. But
because
Jack's
he was
alive.
Gonna lose millions of dollars,
and he's not. He's like he comes out of his like catatonic state basically because he's like, oh, you know
38
what?
years he's been in this rest home.
I've been living in the past, and now I realize that like I should have not abandoned my
his baby daughter.
My baby daughter when my wife died.
Gwen.
And that's a lesson for Nicholas Morrow too. You know, because now young Barbara is going to go back to Switzerland to live with her family, and Nicholas is very upset about that. But
I think he handles it pretty well.
This is where you really want I mean, maybe I'm asking for too much hand-holding, but I would love for the whole Regina plotline to come back full circle here. Nicholas gets this lesson that he shouldn't live in the past. You know, this grandpa, Jack, is like, oh, wow, I really made a mistake only living in the past and letting my wife's untimely death ruin 38 years of my life, essentially, and I missed out on so much. And Nicholas has, you know, has a moment of realization that he doesn't want to live in the past anymore, but he never explicitly connects the dots, right?
I read that loud and clear. That's he's figuring
that
it's
a reference to Regina.
That he's realized that he needs to stop moping about the fact that his sister had a
absolutely
extremely
not.
rare
I agree with Marissa.
cardiac event.
I think all he took out of it was like, oh, okay, I can't keep pining after Barbara because she's moving to Switzerland.
Well,
but then he does anyway because stupid old Grandpa Jack leaves the portrait of old Barbara in his car.
Which looks exactly like new Barbara.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
What is he supposed to do with that? Go hang in his bedroom?
Yeah, and think about her every day and really live in the past. He should donate it to that art museum is what he should do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And then Jess can finish her piece.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Oh, and then Jessica and Elizabeth are going to have a big story in the newspaper where they're going
to be on the front page.
The Sweet Valley News gets the first real scoop about what actually happened.
Huge.
Everybody thinks Russell Kincaid committed suicide.
Huge.
Yeah. And they could be on the front page, and
accidental
they should look cute for that, probably.
I hope so.
Oh yeah, but Jessica doesn't like the picture that they've chosen. It was taken at the picnic. Jessica has a final thought toward the end of this book that she shares with Liz that really stood out to me, knowing these books as well as I do. So can I read that to you guys?
Please.
Yeah.
Jessica shivered. Liz, every time I think about what happened last night, I mean, you didn't see it, but the look on Kincaid's face when he was falling back from that cliff. She bit her lip and hugged her knees close to her. I had a really awful dream about it. Elizabeth nodded, her eyes big. Me too. Dr. Fisherman said it's... I'm sorry. Why is his name Dr. Fisherman?
I love that the doctor's called Dr. Fisherman.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but now here it is, and I can't. His name is Dr. Fisherman.
Yeah, pick a lane, doctor.
You know, good for him for breaking out of the family tradition. You know? It's been generations of fishermen.
Me too. Dr. Fisherman said it's normal to have bad dreams after going through something like this. She sighed. I think it's going to be a long, long time before I forget what happened at Bayview House. And I just wonder, is it going to be a long time?
Doesn't sound like it. Sounds like once the summer ends, everything will kind of go back to normal.
Yeah.
Or even mystery number 4.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I'm wondering about.
I've now read
time.
Super Thriller number 3, and there was no indication of what happened in Super Thriller number 1 or 2 in this book.
Right. Does the name Adam Maitland mean anything to you guys?
Not a thing.
No.
Sure doesn't. Even though he was mentioned in the book, but so quickly in passing. He's this guy who's living with the Wakefields over the summer. He's Stephen's college roommate, and in the first thriller, his girlfriend was murdered.
Yeah, they mentioned him. Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems nice.
Yeah. I don't think they mentioned the girlfriend murder.
No, they didn't.
That was like
they would.
a week ago.
Yeah. He seems fine.
They mention him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't mention the girlfriend murder.
No. That's Super Thriller number 1.
That would be too much.
Double Jeopardy.
They're like, you just read it. You don't need us to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, fellows. Mm-hmm. I think we did it. I think we got through the whole book.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Yeah.
What a beautiful story.
Just an hour, and it took Francine Pascal 200 pages. So
yeah, it took me about 3 hours to read the book too.
Yeah.
So where do I send the invoice, Marissa?
Well, I was recently a guest on
for that time.
Well, I was recently a guest on Babysitters Club.
That's true.
Sweet Valley High.
Sweet Valley Boys.
Sweet Valley Boys.
Yeah.
And a special edition talking about playing with fire. It was so much fun. But I did on that show really, really fail miserably at trying to recap Playing with Fire in 90 seconds. I was given 90 whole seconds, and I think I got maybe like 45 to 50 pages into the book.
Yep.
I observed that really recapping them in an hour or so is more my speed.
Yeah.
So this is, I think that is borne out today.
It makes more sense. It has a lot more structure to a show.
Yeah, you don't have to just make up bits. And make up parts, like make up entire things about the entire universe of the story.
No, I mean that would be a lot of fun, and there certainly is a lot to work with. But
Yeah.
I
if
think
people
maybe,
like that, if people want that,
yeah,
come listen to our show. Come
absolutely,
listen to our show.
Definitely do.
We've got hundreds of episodes about the Babysitters Club.
Hundreds.
Right,
that
you guys
can
have
go
done the
back
whole
and listen
thing.
to.
We
Literally
did
everything, all the spin-offs, everything.
I was secretly lobbying like for what your next venture was going to be. Really, in my heart of hearts, what I wanted was for you guys to start over.
It came up in our negotiations.
So just to now knowing what you now know,
Yeah.
with all of the theories and all of the pieces in place.
Yeah. I don't think either of us were quite ready to leave the BSC averse too. But honestly, we got so hard in the paint on like the spin-offs, which are not as good, that we already started to lose sight of the BSC anyway. Like once you're reading about like Ducky and Amelia in Palo City, California, you're like, what are these books again?
Yeah.
Well, here in Sweet Valley High, I mean, I'm going at a slow pace, but we have the same road ahead in terms of there being a lot of spin-offs and how it's going to complicate things if and when should I live to get through that many books.
Yeah,
we've got Sweet Valley University, Sweet Valley Twins, Sweet Valley Kids,
Unicorn
Sweet
Club.
Valley Senior Year, Sweet Valley Confidential. It's like, whew.
They become so abstracted that it doesn't even feel like Sweet Valley anymore, if the Babysitters Club is any indication.
Yeah, I think that's it's like an impossible to keep all of the lore in one's head at once, and different timelines.
Well, I mean, luckily the thing about Babysitters Club that I think is true about the Sweet Valley books is like there is no timelines. It exists in a singularity, one point in time and space.
The still point of the turning world.
Yeah.
That's so wise.
Heidegger said that.
No, it's T.S. Eliot.
I had a 50-50 shot at that, right?
Well, listen, on Sweet Valley Diaries, usually I ask my guests if they are a Jessica or an Elizabeth. And you guys can answer that question. But I think
we're both Elizabeths.
Both Elizabeths.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I think maybe Jack harbors a secret desire to be a Jessica. I'm trying to remember what you said last time.
I think I'll say the same. I imagine I said the same thing, which is that as a young boy when I read these books, I was like, man, Jessica's awful and Elizabeth is nice. And now, I think they're both not great for various reasons.
Yeah.
But Jessica's interesting.
Yeah. Well, let me throw another question at you that's very specific to this book. Let's say you got to write an article for the local paper.
Okay.
Politics or paintings?
Politics.
Paintings.
Wow. Okay, so
yes.
I'm Elizabeth and you're Jessica, and that is probably actually right.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, she tricked us.
That's beautiful.
She tricked us.
Well, guys, thank you so much for recapping No Place to Hide with me.
You're welcome.
This has been an honor and a pleasure. Do you want to tell the gladiators anything about what you've got coming up?
Oh, our life is a mess right now, gladiators. We don't know what we're doing. We're listless.
Can
what
I
we're doing
tell
right
them?
now, so we ran out of Babysitters Club books. We're doing a couple Sweet Valley books right now, too. So come check those out at the very least. But then we're going to transition into a new show on the same feed. It's called Strange Bedfellows. The Strange Bedfellows are me and Jack with romance books. An entire literary genre that we are not familiar with and, frankly, wildly uncomfortable with because we are repressed Midwestern and British boys.
We're going to start with Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Ooh, I've read that.
Casey McQuiston, which we really liked.
Oof. That's a sexy book, you guys.
It's very sexy.
Very sexy. And that's something about romance books that no one warned me about.
They're a little bit too sexy.
Yeah.
It's like such a closely guarded secret, I feel like.
Pretty,
we weren't ready for
graphic
it.
sex stuff in these books.
Yeah.
So if you're a younger reader or have like a heart condition, you might just want to
steer clear of that.
Steer clear.
Or you could go back to the beginning of our show and listen to our ample back catalog of Babysitters Club.
Interesting choice.
And the
of
Patreon.
words.
Yeah.
And the Patreon, Little Sister Books. Yep. And we sing the descriptions.
Yeah. Thank you.
A highlight. Well, I will put links to all of this stuff in the show notes, Gladiator, so you can check that out. And, read the show notes anyway, because I write a little funny paragraph, and I don't know if
Read
anybody
the
reads
show
them.
notes, Gladiator. She's takes time with it. Come on.
Don't get too mad at them, because people might read the show notes.
Okay.
I don't
We're pretty
really know.
hostile to our fans. Are you not?
I don't think there's any real metric that I can track on that, on whether or not the show notes are getting read,
Yeah.
And everything else that I like to tell you to do is follow Sweet Valley Diaries on Instagram, or Sweet Valley on Twitter. You can send me an email, sweetvalleydiaries@me.com. But the best thing you could do for me,
And wait, is that
Sweet Valley
Marissa?
Diaries is
Sweet Valley at marissaflaxbart.com or?
no. Oh, I see what you mean. I hope. Oh, maybe that's where. I hope a lot of emails haven't been getting lost.
Again, it's Sweet Valley at marissaflaxbart.com.
Tell a friend about Sweet Valley Diaries. That's all I have to say. Thank you, fellas, very much. Thank you, Gladiators, for listening. And remember, just don't mess with ghosts.
Don't.
Or date them.
Oh, or date them.
It's so lucrative.
Mess with them. You get my meaning.
If you date a ghost, you're guaranteed to get a priceless portrait at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
So does that mean meet Miss America?
But let's
Oh, Jack's gone.
Oh yeah, okay. He is gone. Should
Great.
we keep going?
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, go ahead.
That's
We
all
don't
right.
need him anyway.
You and I can talk. So
Very professional podcasting, Jack.
My cat needed to come in here. She's
some might
old.
argue that the truly professional thing for us to have done would have been to just continue
Some might,
podcasting.
that's what I assumed.
Not a
was gonna
professional
happen,
podcaster.
but-
It's something I do in my free time, so.
Well, me too. So that goes for all of us.